Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for dropping by this morning. Welcome back. Obviously, I'll see a lot of you next Tuesday. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you and the children and the staff. It's been a very strange 5 months or so, hasn't it? With lots of different things to consider, potentially for you folk at home, some concerns and anxieties about sending your children back to school. And it's with that really that the kind of key message today that will kind of permeate through this forum is about safety and keeping your children safe in school and keeping our staff safe and making sure we mitigate any possible worries or concerns around transmission and contracting this COVID-19. So I suppose that the most honest thing to say is because we were open during the lockdown for those eligible for the key worker families, we do have quite a strong blueprint already in place in school. There are obviously a few changes based on some of the government guidelines about the wider opening of the school for the rest of the children and the school community to come back onto the school site. But in essence, the foundation that we had from March to July for the key worker children is pretty much still in place. We are going to keep with the bubbles. And as you probably read from the documentation I sent out at the beginning of the week, classes will remain in bubbles. The classrooms will be set out in a way where children will have very few opportunities to walk around the school and use things that they would normally use on a daily basis. And so those classrooms have been put together. The areas around the classrooms are solely for the use for those bubbles. The only people that will be allowed to move within bubbles are the teachers, and that's been widely signalled in the documentation from the government that staff are allowed to move within bubbles. Because I think from my point of view, and surely other staff that may be listening or looking at this a bit later on, that we would find it very difficult to operate and to safeguard the children. So that's really, really important for us that we can move around those bubbles. And the senior leadership team will be doing that, obviously, and risk assessing and monitoring how this first week goes. So as I stated, the classrooms will be bubble and bubble orientated, and the makeup of the day, the makeup of the school day will obviously be a consequence of that. So we won't be having large gatherings like assemblies in the school hall. We will be doing assemblies, but via this platform to the classrooms, so everyone can see each other. So we can do whole school assemblies, which is quite nice in a way. Things like toilets will be only designated and allocated to the areas of those bubbles within the school, so that obviously toilets can be used. I know it's one of the questions that people asked. Cloakrooms will only be allowed to be used by those children. And what we'll do is that all the children will feel perfectly fine. They'll probably be a little bit excited, maybe a bit anxious about it, but we will give them an orientation how to where to go within the school. And the most important thing for them will be break times and lunch times, and we've staggered that, and we've got places on the playgrounds where children will be. For you new parents out there, reception parents that are coming and starting on the 7th of September, it's quite nice that the reception children have got their own space outside. So they'll be using that all the time anyway. And when your ABCD groups come in, the children will obviously be told what to do in terms of toileting, where the toilets are, which is obviously self-contained for the reception children, and where the outside area is. So I just want to reassure you that that's been given a lot of thought, and staff have been in over the summer holidays really adapting their classrooms, making sure resources are individualized in wallets, and there's some shared resources that they might have next door to the partner they're with, or who they're sitting with. But in essence, it's as tight as we possibly can make it, as safe as we can possibly make it. And I want to just reassure you that daily we'll be reflecting on the practice, as every school probably will be, just to make sure we're risk assessing and monitoring any kind of risks that are there that we can reduce and mitigate going forward. And that will be a process. I think that's really important to remember. This is a process. Day one, next Tuesday, the children will be going back to their previous classrooms, but the same kind of system is in place as it would be for any other day. So that's really important to remember, is that when the children are coming from you to the school, we've got over 250 different bubbles coming to school, and they will then end up in their own bubble. I just want to, the reason why I haven't staggered start times only for the reception children, the new reception children next week, because we geographically don't necessarily have the space outside the school to do so, because I think with people going back to work and parents rushing around, I think this will cause us more of an issue outside. So I think it's just allow parents onto the site to drop the children off and then to move off site, socially distancing as much as you possibly can, because that's really difficult to police from my point of view. So I'm putting a lot of trust in you to drop your children off and go and not congregate around the site. And to do that in one hit, I feel, and having spoken to a few colleagues that have been in Scotland, they've staggered a few for a few days, and they just haven't done it anymore, just because due to the geographical element of their site and the way parents are working in the morning, they found that very difficult to police, almost impossible. So if you do have siblings, obviously, I'm trying to keep it as normal as I possibly can for you, because you can drop off your infant child at the playground or the black door for the year twos, year one reception to the normal playground where they line up, and then you just go and drop off your junior child. There's nothing different to what we would normally do, except the fact that you just need to say goodbye to them and go. Now, the thing that really bothers me massively about this, having been through it, and I'm sure those that are about to embark upon school for the first time, I can only apologise. And for those that aren't going to be able to come into the classroom with their new 4-year-olds and maybe 5-year-olds if they've turned 5 in the last week or so, I really am sorry about that. But we can't have parents in classrooms, mainly due to the bubble issue and mainly due to obvious reasons set out from the government. So I can only feel your pain. And that's why I've stipulated about one adult coming to drop off a child, which we're trying to reduce the amount of people on site. So I really need you to adhere to that if possible, please. That's really important. But I can only apologise to those that are starting school for the first time. I know saying goodbye to the child, and we're not going to be monsters about it. By all means, you'll be able to drop them off at the playground with Miss Blackman and Miss Parfitter, but you won't be allowed in the classroom, and you'll have to obviously come off site. Sometimes that might be better for the child anyway, but nonetheless, I understand that's a difficult element, and I'm sure you've all been looking forward to that. But once all this is sorted, we'll try and do something different and try and kind of celebrate the start of their school with you properly when we are able to do so. So everything about the start of the day and pick up at the end of the day is all about trying to reduce risk. So to try and keep you on the site as least as possible. And obviously, if that does improve and we can start to introduce a bit of normality to what we're used to normally, then we will. But for the time being, we need to adhere to those kind of key guidelines. And for those that were part of the key worker group, those families, obviously you know where you had to go before. I'll be on the gate, Miss Smith will be on the gate, and some SLT members will be on the gate to kind of direct you where to go. But once you've done it a few times, much like you did during lockdown, it's fairly straightforward. But again, you've been out in society, you know what it's like. You need to obviously keep your distance from people up to 2 meters. So yeah, it's going to be about us working as a team for these first couple of weeks. And as I said, we'll be monitoring and reflecting on that practice, how the children are responding on site. And no doubt I'll probably do these forums throughout the first half term just to kind of keep you apprised. We'll do all we can to communicate with you. Mr. Kingshot is putting Dojo together and transferring all those classes over. I think the new reception parents have got their online platform now. And if you haven't, please make sure you send in your email address so we can invite you to the Class Dojo. The website's going to be updated. I think Mrs. Smith's going to put this plan that we put together on the website for you to access. So we will continue to communicate with you as clearly as possible and as often as possible. I think that's important. So, I suppose the difficult thing is you not being able to come on site and to talk to us. I believe we'll be using phones and video conferencing for those that need to come and speak to certain teachers. particularly with Mrs. Cross, who will be speaking to a lot of parents over the coming weeks. We'll do a lot via this platform and calling you. As soon as we are allowed to have people on site, of course, we will be inviting you on. I know one of the questions was about uniform. If you didn't buy any uniform at the end of the lockdown, or when we closed down, or I think it was on the 7th of July or something, we hand out reports. By all means, you can come to that reception hatch there. And obviously, Mrs. Blackburn, Mrs. Angel will be able to sell you uniform there. But obviously, with the infants, it's all online. So you can come to that hatch if you need to. But as I said, I can't have hundreds of people in the reception areas talking to the office staff just because of obvious reasons. Please, if you want to use that, that is the only site for the time being. Everything else needs to be done by phone or email or Dojo. Just obviously, as I said, I've got to put trust in you to be able to adhere to that going forward. Right. Yes. So just a few things that people mentioned. Lunches will come up. Yes, we are providing lunches for everybody that requires them. They are going to be packed lunches for the time being, mainly due to the fact that we need to reduce the catering staff. That's not, we can't have at capacity for the staff at the moment for obvious reasons. Packed lunches will be given to the free school meal children. And I think I put the options on the letter for you. And all children and the infants who are universal free school meals, that's every child, will be receiving a packed lunch if they so wish to have one. Obviously, those that normally have hot school dinners will go through the normal parent pay, and obviously we'll be asking if they want their packed lunch, or alternatively, you can send the children in with your own. And as we're on that particular matter, things coming to and from school and from school to home, the least that comes in the better, because obviously we need to sanitize things in school. Obviously, you'll be bringing your PE kits, which will remain in the bags, obviously for their own children to use. This is another important thing. We're not going to be able to send out PE kits from other children and things like that. It's important that you have a PE kit, your own PE kit, and that's washed every week. And things like lunchbox and water bottles, they need to be washed when they're taken home. It's up to you to make sure they're disinfected and then brought in the next day if you're sending children with packed lunches. So everything that comes in has to be minimal. It's the child, what they're wearing, the PE kit, and their lunchbox and water bottle. That's it. Stationery we are providing for the children. We're doing all that, and we'll be cleaning that on a daily basis. So nothing like that needs to be brought in. That's really important. In this kind of little break here, I just want to remind you there is a live chat. So if you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to throw them on the live chat there. You do need to sign in. And just about to say, actually, Mr. Crump, that gate will be open coming from the Golden Vale. So that will be open for you to use. But again, these entrances and exits, we can't congregate. You come in, you drop the children, and then you go. I think that's really important to remember. So please make sure that it's a drop off and go, and the same with pick up. I just slightly lost my thread there. Other picking up things. People mentioned about doctor's appointment, etc. I think that's perfectly fine. The doctor appointments, that's fine. We'll fetch the children for you. As soon as we know they're there, you can drop into the reception, say, can I come and collect said child? We'll collect them, but you'll obviously need to move outside. And then we'll just, as we would normally do. So that was a good question. Someone mentioned about toilets. Yes, children will be able to use toilets throughout the day. Obviously, it's their own allocated toilets. Absolutely. Uniform. Yeah, there's a big, I really, really struggled with this one because so many schools are doing something so very different. Some schools aren't sending children in uniform at all because it's easier. I know I didn't have children wearing uniform during key worker, through the key worker kind of lockdown, I suppose. But having read all the guidance around it, the government have very much said, and I think this is from the start really, no clothes really need to be washed any more than they normally are. There's no reason why children should or shouldn't be wearing uniform. So that's why I said they should be wearing uniform. And I think if by any chance you haven't got it washed for the next day, then I don't mind if they come in some black tracksuit bottoms and their jumper because you're getting their trousers washed. I don't mind so much at all. So the children aren't going to be ridiculed for that. However, I would say though, last year, and this is irrespective of COVID or anything like that, there are a lot of children still coming in trainers, and that's unacceptable. Trainers are for PE and for forest school, which will be continuing because it's outside, but school shoes should be worn all the time. So yeah, sorry, I was just reading the question there. So please make sure that the children are in uniform, but I'm not going to get on their backs or your backs if, for instance, you've got a wash day like on a Wednesday and they come in something else. I have no issues around that, as long as the children say, mine's in the wash, miss, or and it'll be back on me on Thursday. I have no issues. That's absolutely fine. I think there are more important things at the moment. That being said, it'll look nice. If the children come in uniform, it will be nice to see them in uniform. So thank you for that. People might have to wait around for a little bit. I don't mind, but year 6 in reception. I'd rather you go back off site, please. Thank you. If you've got a 50-minute wait just outside the gate, that's fine. And when you drop off your new child in reception, rather than waiting around the playground, I'd prefer if you just come off site and come back on when you need to, if that's okay. Thank you. The quad entrance, you won't need to worry about, because if you're dropping your child off at the junior playground, you're dropping off, they will go to their class teacher and you will go. So you won't be coming necessarily onto the playground. If you're coming from the back gate, you'll be dropping off there and going. So we're trying to keep parents off the playground as much as possible for obvious reasons. We can't have congregated groups. So the quad entrance you'll be able to see soon. There has been a build on the juniors. We filled in the quad with some offices and a staff room, but the teachers will tell the children when they've lined up in the junior playground where to go. It's very straightforward, very simple for the children to remember. Equally the same with the infants. Year 2 is the black gate. They get dropped off by the black gate. They go into their separate classrooms, and year 1 will be the same on the playground. They'll be dropped off by the wooden gates. They'll be taken into the kind of playground door, and reception will go straight into Miss Blackman's front door and Miss Parfitt's rear by the outside area. So the children will be fine. That's what they recognise where they are and what they're going to do. But after a few times doing it, they'll be absolutely fine. But key thing for you is to make sure you drop off and go. Okay, that sounds pretty harsh. I appreciate that, but obviously I'd love for you to be around so we can chat, but not for the time being, I'm afraid. What else we got here? Uniform, that's fine. Yeah, it's just a reminder. So the children on Tuesday and Wednesday will be spending time in their previous classrooms, and on the Wednesday morning, they'll be going to their new class teacher to do some work with them, a bit of transition. But I thought it was an opportunity for them to see their previous teacher and then transition to their new teacher on the Wednesday. And then just a reminder, Thursday and Friday, the school are closed for those rearranged inset days, which were originally on the Tuesday and Wednesday, are now Thursday and Friday. So then children will begin back on Monday, the 7th of September, where they would have had a couple of days in school, which would be nice for them. And they'll hopefully be excited over the weekend to come back. And they would have had a bit of orientation as well, which would be useful for them and for us, because it gives us an opportunity on the inset days. If there's anything we need to tweak or change, we can do so. Staffing wise, we have a full complement of staff. Every single member of staff that were shielding has now been given the green lights. That's good. So as far as I'm concerned, the staff that are working on the days that they're working will be in. I know they're very excited. They've been working incredibly hard behind the scenes, getting their classrooms ready for the children. And just to kind of reiterate kind of the curriculum element to what I described in the documentation I sent out, massive amount of work we done on mental health and transitioning and behavior routines and GEMS. And so Mr. Milchard, you mentioned it there. So what we're doing is, in terms of the catch up, any time lost, all these kind of key elicitations will be done initially to see where the children are. And as I said before in the curriculum element, we have to make sure that we are keeping an eye on what the children have missed in the summer term of their previous year group. And then what we'll do is, if that seems okay, we will obviously stretch them if we need to and move on to this year's learning. But I really need to kind of reinforce that I think it's going to take a good term's worth, which is exactly what they've missed, to kind of make sure we know exactly where the children have missed, what the children have missed in terms of their knowledge and skills before we start anything new. I'm never, and you know this, I'm not a fan of children starting anything new until they've really digested and understood what they've missed, or the things that they need to learn before they move on. So everything will be done to make sure we monitor and assess exactly where the children are. And that will take a bit of time because they've got to get used to that coming back into school. And I talked about this before, and about children coming from different environments from school to home to school again. It's going to take a bit of time for us to get the children used to those routines, because that's difficult for them. They're all coming from different learning environments from home. Some have been doing loads, some have been doing what they need to be doing, and there may be some children that haven't had the opportunity to do a great deal. And that's no fault of anybody. That's just the way things are. So a lot of emphasis we putting on elicitations, seeing exactly where the children are in those key skilled areas. And because of that, we will have to reduce the curriculum in terms of the topic content and focus mainly on the reading, writing, maths, and phonics. We need to make sure that that's completely and utterly solid and the foundations are still there, and to kind of revise and refresh those key skills before we move on. Without those, in cross-curricular work is very, very difficult, and the children become disenthused by that. That is our main vision, our main process for the first 6 weeks, and I really do feel that's going to take the autumn term. Okay. Thank you, Helen Tarling, for that question. I'm still mulling that one over, really, because I know exactly how parents will feel about that. I think what I'll do is, because the reception children are coming in at 9 o'clock, I'm more than happy for two parents to come to drop them off. But as I said before, it's really important that you drop off and go. I know you might have an interaction with a teacher or maybe another parent, but please, I'm happy for you both to come to drop them off, but then you'll need to obviously leave once they've been dropped off. And that's the best I can do. So apologies, it's not exactly what you want, but I think if you both can come and say goodbye, and then off you pop, that'd be great. As I said, lockdown work for the time being has to remain at home, just because bringing stuff in from home. Please don't throw it. We need to keep that, because that's going to be useful for the child's profile. I'll make some decisions over the first couple of weeks. I really want to kind of risk assess how things are in the school before we bring lots and lots of work back into school, once we know where children are. So there will be an opportunity to bring it in, but if you can just keep hold of it for now, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll let you know when they can come in. It's more about obviously space and storing it as well. So please, if you can keep hold of that, that'd be great. Right, what else have we got? Let's have a look. That's fine. So yeah, Forest School, I've decided will continue. It's outside. The children are going to be remaining in their bubbles anyway. So for me, Forest School will continue. Actually, this is the first time the staff are probably hearing it if they're listening in. So that will be continuing, and I know that timetable will be put together and you'll be informed about that. All communication for the time being from school will be phone. We're going to reduce the amount of letters we send out, so please check your dojos for PDFs. The website will have to be used a lot more, not just as a kind of holding ground, which is what it's normally used for, but there'll be some more information going on the website more regularly when we need to do so. I know some parents have asked things about trips and things. As far as we are concerned, no, people, obviously staff have been researching trips for the kind of topic area they're looking at for the autumn term. There's no reason why we can't carry on with trips. And obviously the risk assessments done by the places that children will be visiting will obviously have their addendum to COVID-19 in their safeguarding and risk assessment policies. And so as far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't really stop the children from doing those things. But we'll have to see and kind of tease out really what coach companies are going to say about this, and the places they're going to visit. But from what I'm suggesting, there's no reason why bubbles of children can't go. It will depend on the places that will be accepting folk. Yes, thank you. It does. When I wrote it, it said 7 days. NHS are now saying 10 days, and so I appreciate that. So, in terms of staying at home, if there's a positive test, my understanding was if there's a positive test, the rest of the family should be 14 days, which is what I think I've said as well. But yeah, so as it stands, it's at least 7 days, but the guidance now suggests 10 days if your test is positive. And on that note, thank you for mentioning it. The school has been provided with only 10 home testing kits per school at the moment. And this again is another trust issue for me. I can't police and monitor the symptoms at home. And I know you've been doing it all summer anyway, but we will need to know immediately if anyone in the family has started showing symptoms, or because the understanding is that these symptoms don't necessarily show until 7 days of it potentially contracting the virus. So that's really important to let us know, and I'm going to be incredibly strict about that. I'm incredibly strict about it in school, and as I've outlined, the kind of intimate care surrounding how we're going to deal with that if there are children or staff that present or start presenting symptoms. That's very, very key for us, because obviously that's an affecting education for everybody. I have no intention of closing the school. I think there were talk about if there was a couple of tests or a couple of positive tests in a school, they should close. That's not the case. There's a reason for bubbles. They may have an impact on bubbles, but let's hopefully we won't have to worry about that too much at the moment, mainly due to the fact that children don't tend to transmit or contract as much as those other groups. So that's really important to us. We've got all the essential cleaning products, sanitizers and aprons and masks and things that we need to do if that does happen. Similarly, the children will be obviously washing their hands all the time. We'll be sanitizing things that they touch, surfaces, door handles, as we were during the lockdown. That we're quite well rehearsed in that now. So that's hopefully something you feel reassured about. Okay. I think someone mentioned something about crisp packets coming to be recycled. If you don't mind recycling them for yourself up for the time being, again, this is other stuff coming in to school from home. Again, I can't monitor that and police what comes into school. So please, if you don't mind keeping that at home for the time being, that will be useful. Well, that's all the kind of questions you sent through. I appreciate this is a very strange time. I think our main purpose is to try and keep this as normal as possible for you. Once we're in school and the children are in school, we know we've got a plan in place to support the children in terms of the curriculum, in terms of the daily routines, in terms of the interactions with others. So you on this occasion have a job as well to do about how you pick up and drop the children off. That's really important to make sure that this works like clockwork. And as I said, I'm available via my email. The admin staff are available. SLT will be available. Your dojo is available. That's a really good way of obviously messaging your class teacher, or come back to me straight away if I need to influence that. So by all means, contact us, communicate with us. And I'm quite excited that we're going back. It's been a long 5 months or so. I think it's nearly 5-6 months. The children are probably eager to come back to see their friends, I would imagine, if they haven't done so already outside of school. But I'm really much looking forward to it. Yes, we will be holding I think I've already put those in the dates and diary for the staff. They've seen those. I'm not sure if I sent that out to you yet. I thought I sent you out some dates. If I haven't, that will be done in the first couple of days. But there will be some parent meetings. It probably will be via this forum. And I know it worked really well last year. So, and I think I've already put those in the diary, actually. So yes, that will be happening, Mr. Taylor. Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, so like normal, please collect your reception child. And no child will be let go until the parents have been seen. All I would ask for you to do is, once you collect that reception child, I think this is more so for when the reception are in full time, because obviously the first 2.5 weeks are staggered groups. But yes, you then go and collect the other one, but they won't be let go until that happens. I think the one thing I was going to mention, actually, and that's a good point, is walking home alone. I think for the time being, what we'll do is I will send out a permission walk home alone permission form, and this will stay as the usual policy, which is only year 6 at the moment. It's still light. I'm happy with the year 6 walk home for the time being, but as it starts to get dark, obviously what we try and ask parents to do is come and collect. And I think in the current climate, I would prefer if a parent comes and collect their child. But if you can't, then we will need a permission form, which will be sent out to you. I think we still have them from last year, but we do need a new one for you to sign. I think the difficulty with collecting outside the school gates is we're just letting the child go, and I don't feel comfortable about that, unless, of course, they are walking home on their own, and that's fine. But that's only year 6 for the time being. Okay, Ms. Jones. Well, I just suggest that they isolate for the 14 days and then you come on the 15th day. I want to add as well, there's something what we will be doing. If this does happen and the family do need to isolate, there will be things on Dojo for the children to do, because obviously we want to make sure they continue to do their work. So if there is a child in a class that is isolating, they will make sure that those activities are available on Dojo for them. So for those that have been doing a lot of homeschooling, I would suggest making sure you keep your pads and pens and don't throw them away, because obviously we don't really want to send too much home. And so it's important to make sure that you keep hold of those bits and pieces if you need to do any work at home. Let's hope this doesn't happen. And I suppose the reassuring thing is we were open during lockdown, and not at one point did we have any family isolate. Any child was sent home from the key worker groups or anything like that at all. So it will be highly irregular, I think, if this happens. But if it does, we know we've got plans in place for it to be sorted. Okay. Yeah, so what will happen is, I know I've got the times in terms of collect children that time and juniors this time. The juniors will all be out on the playground. So once the gates are open, and the teachers will already be over at the juniors once you've collected from the infants, they'll already be there in lines ready to go. We're making sure of that, so there is very much less waiting around for you. And some of it we can't help. We can't reduce the risk of it 100% because there's too many, there's people around. So once the gates open, the staff will be there to let the children go for you. And it will be a case of waiting around for a very minimal amount of time. Okay. What I would say is, when you're coming in to collect your infant child, you must go to the left of the gate, as you were for reception key worker, collect your children as a bit like a clockwise direction, collect what you need, who you need to collect, back round to the back gates, past preschool, then up the path to the juniors. And obviously, rather than me signalling where you need to go, there are two other possible ways you can go. Obviously, there's down one path, back out the gate, and then there's the other path from the junior as well. So there's opportunities for you to do so, to exit. It's just a case of you being able to make sure you're kind of monitoring yourselves in a way. Otherwise it's going to be incredibly difficult to police. Right, there's no guidance that says that parents should wear masks to drop off and pick up. That's completely up to you. My understanding is the directive that came yesterday is that if parents want to wear masks into the site, that's entirely up to you. But I'm not going to tell you to put them on if you're not wearing one. Okay. What I'll do, I'll see how the first week progresses, and no doubt the first full week back, I will do another one of these forums to kind of let you know how things are going in school, to kind of keep you up. And I'll obviously let you know about that when that will be happening. But I think if I do this first week's a bit different because there's only a few days with the children to school, then we've got inset, but there's certainly the week beginning of the 7th of September. I do plan to do another one of these, kind of keep you apprised. I know some of you might be working, but obviously you can catch up on demand with this forum. So by all means, look at that. But I thought I'd just give you an update, if I can, if the time's there and time is willing, about how the children are doing and what's going on in school. But by all means, but no doubt we'll be using Class Dojo quite a bit over the next few weeks anyway, to kind of keep you informed. Trying to keep the practice and routines as similar as possible for all of you, because as much as the children need reassurance and safety, I know as parents we do as well. So as I said, just to reassure you, the site is safe. All what we need to be in place is in place to make sure the children are adhering to the guidelines in school as much as we possibly can, in terms of hand sanitizers, in terms of separating the segregated bubble groups within the school. And at the same time, while this is all going on, we'll try and teach them a little bit of something as well. So that's really, really important. And just to reassure you that we're looking forward to seeing them and to orientate them with a bit of a new normal. But yes, I'm sure it'll all be fine. And we're at the end of the phone at any point when you need us. And just for our new parents out there that are coming and starting, again, there's complete understanding that our 4-year-olds or new 5-year-olds will find it very difficult to keep 2 meters apart. We'll be telling them to do as much as we possibly can, but we understand that's not necessarily going to be the case for the little ones, and so we appreciate that. And that's just the way 4 and 5-year-olds work. But I think the first 2.5 weeks, so how they're coming in their groups, will support that a little bit, which is good. PMUs is going to. I suppose the difficult thing is with PMUs is that the only way to work PMUs is to create its own bubble, and that's why I haven't closed PMUs. It's open because that's another bubble we're going to have to create on site. So, for instance, I'm not doing extracurricular clubs for the time being to create more bubble groups. But the one I know that is an essential bubble group is the PMUs for folk that need to use it for childcare. So that will be open from the 7th of September. And so that will form its own bubble group, in essence. So I appreciate that it's a different one, and I need to limit the amount of bubble groups in school. But for me, that's one of the most important bubble groups. But all the necessary systems in place that we're doing about cleaning hands and walking in over to PMUs from different classes will be happening, and then that bubble group will form. I think if there are any cases of children that have been moving bubbles or have had cases within school that have got COVID-19, then that's something I have to consider. But at the moment, I feel fairly secure that this will be okay. And I know it's an essential provision that parents need. But it's a good question, but it's the only other bubble in school that we're going to form in order to support parents. And that will be up to you if you want to use it, because I know it's such an essential thing. So yes, PMUs will be open and it will form its own bubble in addition to the other ones that we've got going on in school. Right, thank you for the 33 that have dropped by. I appreciate that. I appreciate your time. And I also appreciate it's been quite a tough 5 months for those of you who've been homeschooling. And I hope you had a bit of a break over the summer. We've had some nice weather, a bit inclement in places. But I hope you've got to maybe even go away for a few days. And you've had some type of respite, some type of different things to do. And feeling refreshed to come back next Tuesday. Some of you might be really looking forward to the children coming back. I know they are. And I've seen a few around Churchdown that have been on their bikes and things like that. And So that's been nice to see that people have been out and about. But let's just kind of be calm about what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. Let's remain communicative with one another. As I said, any questions, don't hesitate to either email me or dojo me. I don't mind that. Email my dojo notifications don't always come up for some reason, and when I go on there daily, I might have 25 messages from people. It is easier to email me because that's something that I can log very easily and very quickly. And I don't mind you emailing me via the admin email address, but my email address is exactly the same as the admin one, except it says head and not admin. But I don't use the INF one anymore. It's just the JUN. So it's head@partamanor-jun.gloss.sch.uk. Please use that. And it's a way for me to kind of store these questions, any kind of concerns or wonderings that you have. It's really useful. If you can't do that and you have to dojo, that's fine. But I can collate and record the emails you send more efficiently. So thank you. Right, it's, where are we now? It's 10:10. I think it's probably that's enough. Please refer to the document I sent out. Have a lovely weekend. I believe the weather's looking good. I think I'm going down the Y in a canoe on Sunday, so I might see somebody there, I don't know. But have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday morning. Okay, take care all. Thank you for stopping by.